Have you ever wondered if moving in with your children in your later years could be the right choice, only to face unexpected challenges? In this video, we explore Leah's heartfelt journey as she navigates the complexities of living with her family after retirement. Watch until the end to uncover important lessons on maintaining independence and finding true fulfillment in family dynamics. Before we begin, I would appreciate it if you like this video. You can help me continue to spread the old age lesson. If you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like this video, please comment number 1. If you don't like it, comment number 0 to let me know so I can make a better video for you. Now let's get started. The complexity of family relationships in old age is a topic that profoundly impacts many elderly parents, stirring deep emotions and reflections. This complexity becomes especially pronounced when considering the decision of whether to live with their children after retirement. At first glance, this decision may appear straightforward, but it is often laden with a range of emotional and practical nuances that affect both the parents and their children. Many elderly individuals and their families believe that living together can help maintain close family bonds and provide necessary care in later years. However, the reality of such arrangements frequently proves to be more intricate and challenging than anticipated. Daily life, which once seemed like a comfortable and convenient solution, can evolve into a scenario marked by constant adjustments and sacrifices. The elderly parents, who initially seek to remain close to their loved ones and ensure a supportive environment, may find themselves grappling with a loss of independence and a decline in their quality of life. What was envisioned as a peaceful and harmonious coexistence can sometimes become a source of stress and emotional strain. As the serenity of old age gives way to the demands of a shared household, there arises a profound need to reflect on what it truly means to live well and to find a sense of personal fulfillment. To illustrate this, let me share the story of a friend named Leah. After the passing of her beloved husband, Leah felt it was time to move in with her youngest son, Carlos. Having devoted most of her life to her family, she had raised her children with immense love and sacrifice. During her husband's illness, Leah had been his steadfast companion, tending to him day and night without complaint. With his death, she experienced a deep void and believed that being near Carlos and her grandchildren would help fill this emptiness. She was convinced that the presence of family would provide comfort and a renewed sense of purpose. "It will be good for everyone," she said with a gentle smile as she packed her belongings, envisioning the move as a chance to reconnect and actively participate in her grandchildren's lives. The prospect of being part of a united family once again was a source of great excitement and hope for her. Initially, Leah's transition seemed ideal. Carlos's home was spacious, and the children were thrilled to have their grandmother nearby. Leah immersed herself in cooking, maintaining the household, and spending quality time with her grandchildren, feeling both useful and valued. However, as time passed, the situation began to shift. What were once small, occasional favors evolved into daily responsibilities. Leah, who had moved in search of companionship and emotional support, found herself increasingly assuming the role of an unofficial caregiver. The leisurely afternoons she had envisioned, filled with reading or leisurely walks, were overtaken by endless to-do lists and family commitments. The emotional fulfillment she had anticipated gradually gave way to a growing sense of burden and obligation. Carlos frequently asked, "Mama, can you pick up the kids from school today?" Despite her exhaustion, Leah always agreed with a smile, driven by her desire to contribute. Yet, over time, the feeling of loneliness began to intensify. The daily interactions with Carlos and Marina became increasingly limited to practical matters, and the deeper conversations she had hoped for dwindled. Although her presence was undeniably important to the household, it seemed increasingly taken for granted, as if she had become a mere component of the family's routine. The comforting vision of a fulfilling and loving end-of-life experience appeared to recede further away, prompting Leah to contemplate the need to seek a different path, one that would truly resonate with her own needs and aspirations. This story underscores the intricate dynamics involved in such family arrangements and the profound emotional and practical considerations that come into play. It invites us to delve deeply into the implications of choosing to live with family in old age and to reflect on what it means to live a life that aligns with one's sense of well-being and fulfillment. The initial signs of discord emerged almost imperceptibly, akin to the minute fissures that slowly form in an otherwise steadfast wall. At first, Lee perceived the requests from Carlos and Marina for assistance with household chores and childcare as a normal aspect of their living arrangement. She was more than willing to contribute, believing that her presence in the household was meant to enhance the family's dynamics. After all, she had always been a devoted mother and saw her role as one of active participation and support. However, as time went on, these requests began to evolve from occasional favors into persistent expectations. What had started as simple, occasional asks gradually morphed into a routine. The balance of giving and receiving shifted noticeably, with Leah's initial willingness now feeling more like an obligation. Leah's responsibilities began to grow incrementally, with her time for relaxation and individual pursuits shrinking significantly. What was once an easygoing arrangement had transformed into a continual demand on her time and energy. The situation took a turn for the worse when Leah started sensing that her presence was increasingly regarded not as a cherished and respected role, but rather as a mere convenience for others. The once frequent expressions of love and appreciation from Carlos and Marina dwindled, replaced by impersonal requests and subtle demands. Phrases like, "Mom, could you stop by the market today?" began to be articulated with an expectation of compliance rather than a genuine request. If you are still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment number 1 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. As the days turned into weeks, Leah found herself at the heart of the household's maintenance, absorbing tasks that Carlos and Marina either couldn't or preferred not to handle. What was initially intended as a cooperative and harmonious living situation deteriorated into a stressful routine. Her role began to dangerously blur between that of a guest mother and an unpaid assistant, placing an overwhelming burden on her shoulders. Each day brought a cascade of small frustrations, accumulating into a pervasive tension between her and the rest of the family. Leah felt increasingly confined by a routine that she hadn't actively chosen, where her own needs and aspirations were continuously sacrificed for the benefit of others. The lack of genuine acknowledgement for her contributions gradually began to erode the enthusiasm she had felt when initially joining the household. Each unappreciated task and every request made without regard for her feelings became a small emotional wound she carried in silence. The home, which had once been envisioned as a sanctuary, now felt more like a prison where her independence and dignity were being eroded in the name of family obligations. The emotional toll of this new role was profound for Leah. She began to feel as though she was losing her sense of self, reduced to a role that brought neither joy nor fulfillment. The deep-seated affection she had once felt for Carlos and his family was now overshadowed by growing resentment and sadness. Leah came to realize that rather than strengthening familial bonds, the cohabitation was fostering emotional barriers that, if left unresolved, could become insurmountable. The small, nearly imperceptible conflicts had gradually deepened into significant fractures in a relationship that had previously seemed unbreakable. One evening, as she lay in bed reflecting on her life, Leah began to recognize the need for change. Her previously restful nights were now consumed by a series of introspective thoughts. She replayed in her mind the moments of her life when she had felt truly happy, times characterized by the freedom to make her own choices. What had initially been a minor irritation had burgeoned into a profound sense of discomfort and discontent. Leah began to wonder if, by moving in with Carlos, she had inadvertently sacrificed something far more valuable: her independence, her sense of identity, and most crucially, her happiness. The realization that she was living a life dictated by others, rather than pursuing her desires, began to overwhelm her, accompanied by a growing sense of loss and a yearning to reclaim her fulfillment. Leah found herself grappling with a profound question: was this truly the life she envisioned for herself? She began to recognize that she had drifted away from the simple pleasures that once brought her genuine happiness, like strolling alone in the park, immersing herself in her favorite books, or enjoying the freedom to choose how she spent her days. The role she had assumed in Carlos's home was increasingly creating a rift between her and her sense of self. It dawned on her that remaining there was not benefiting anyone, neither herself nor her family. The prospect of leaving, of altering her life once again, was fraught with difficulty. She was acutely aware that choosing independence would mean sacrificing the joy of being close to her grandchildren, a source of immense happiness for her. However, she also understood that, to be the mother and grandmother her family needed, she had to first find contentment within herself. True well-being, she realized, involved reclaiming her independence and living life on her terms. As she pondered her situation, vivid memories of her life before moving in with Carlos resurfaced with increasing clarity. She recalled how, even in the aftermath of her husband's death, she had managed to find fulfillment in her modest daily routine, surrounded by friends and engaging in activities that truly nourished her spirit. The idea of returning to her hometown, where her roots lay and where she knew she could fully be herself, began to take shape in her mind. She came to understand that her happiness did not hinge on proximity to her family at all costs, but on finding a harmonious balance between loving her children and caring for her own needs. In light of these reflections, Leah reached a pivotal conclusion: to preserve her dignity, mental well-being, and happiness. She had to make a courageous decision. She was aware that communicating this choice to Carlos and her family would not be easy, but she also recognized that it was the only path to regaining control over her life. She no longer wished to be merely a passive presence in her son's home. She aspired to be the architect of her destiny, even if it meant venturing into the unknown once more. With this resolve, she began to map out the next steps of her journey, fully aware that true peace and fulfillment would come only when she could live life according to her desires and needs. A new chapter embracing independence. It was time to embark on a new journey, one that demanded following my path. I felt an urgent need to return to my home, to the place where I could rediscover the peace and independence that seemed to have slipped away from me. The moment of silence that followed my declaration stretched on, feeling like an eternity. Carlos and Marina exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of surprise and concern. "But Mom, are you sure about this?" Carlos asked, his voice tinged with worry as he tried to come to terms with what he had just heard. "The kids will miss you terribly." Leah took a deep breath, her heart heavy with the weight of the conversation. She understood the difficulty of what she was about to say, but she also knew that prioritizing her well-being was crucial. "I love my grandchildren dearly, Carlos, and I will always be there for you whenever you need me. But I need more than just being present. I need to reconnect with who I am and pursue the activities that bring me joy. If I don't make this change now, I fear I might lose myself completely." Marina, who had been quietly absorbing the conversation, nodded slowly. The depth of Leah's words began to sink in. "We'll miss you greatly, but your happiness is what truly matters. If returning to your house is what will make you feel fulfilled, then it's the right thing for you to do." Hearing these words of support brought a profound sense of relief to Leah. For the first time, she felt truly understood. As she prepared to leave Carlos's home, a mix of sadness and excitement enveloped her. Leaving behind the familiar comforts of her son's house was undeniably painful. Yet the prospect of returning to her own home, where she could live life on her terms, filled her with a renewed sense of hope and possibility. Upon arriving at her destination, the burdens she had carried seemed to lift. As she unlocked the door to her old house, she was greeted by a comforting silence that was markedly different from the busy atmosphere she had experienced at her son's home. This was her sanctuary, her haven, and the overwhelming sense of freedom that washed over her was both exhilarating and deeply satisfying. In the days that followed, Leah began to re-embrace the life she had momentarily set aside. She resumed her morning walks, reconnected with old friends, and even began exploring new hobbies that had long been on her wish list but had never seemed feasible. Each small step towards reclaiming her independence reaffirmed her belief that she had made the right choice. If you are still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment number 2 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. She felt a renewed sense of vitality, a deeper connection with herself than she had experienced in years. Although she knew that this new chapter of her life would come with its own set of challenges, she faced them with the newfound confidence of someone who had taken control of her destiny. What had once seemed like a distant dream living freely on her terms was now a vibrant reality, and she was committed to savoring every moment of this personal renaissance. Leah's journey highlights the intricate balance required in family relationships, particularly when living with elderly parents and adult children. Her experience underscores how too much proximity can sometimes lead to emotional distance and tension that were previously non-existent. By choosing to return to her own home, Leah was not only seeking to reclaim her independence but also recognizing the importance of maintaining a healthy and respectful space between herself and her family. Physical distance, far from being a sign of disunity, can be a crucial factor in preserving and even enhancing family bonds. When each family member has their own space, interactions during visits become moments of genuine connection, unburdened by the everyday stresses that often arise from constant cohabitation. This separation helps to mitigate the friction that can occur from living in close quarters all the time. Maintaining a thoughtful balance between proximity and distance enables each individual to live their fullest, most authentic life. Adult children, regardless of how deeply they love their parents, need the freedom to establish their routines, raise their children, and cultivate their relationships. This personal space is essential for their development and well-being. Similarly, elderly parents benefit from an environment that allows them to continue exercising their independence, pursuing their activities, and maintaining their interests. When this balance is properly managed, family interactions take on a new level of quality. Distance fosters a sense of nostalgia, and when this longing is nurtured through planned visits and family gatherings, it deepens the mutual love and respect shared among family members. Moreover, having space allows interactions to be driven by conscious choices rather than by a sense of obligation. For instance, when Leah visits Carlos and his family, these visits are characterized by genuine joy and mutual respect. Leah attends these gatherings because she genuinely wants to, not because she feels she must. Her family recognizes this and welcomes her with open arms, appreciating her presence as a cherished gift rather than an expected duty. This new dynamic, where balance is prioritized, transforms every shared moment into something meaningful and special. It fosters healthy family ties and ensures that each interaction is valuable. This approach encourages harmonious coexistence, allowing everyone involved the opportunity to grow and develop individually. For elderly parents, maintaining dignity and independence in their later years is vital. At the same time, adult children learn to appreciate the time and space shared from a fresh perspective. Leah, for instance, found that by maintaining her own life and routines, she not only safeguarded her own mental and emotional health, but also rejuvenated her relationship with her son and grandchildren. While achieving this balance can be challenging, it is essential for the well-being of all family members and for sustaining healthy, happy relationships. Excessive and constant sacrifice can become a perilous trap, particularly for elderly parents who, in their fervent desire to shield and support their children, may inadvertently neglect their own needs and aspirations. Leah, for example, devoted herself wholeheartedly to aiding Carlos and his family. In her unrelenting effort to assist, she sacrificed everything that once brought her joy and fulfillment. Leah genuinely believed that by foregoing her desires, she was embodying her role as a devoted mother. However, this path eventually led her to a profound sense of frustration and a loss of her identity. What began as an act of love gradually transformed into resentment, not due to a deficiency in her affection for her children, but because she felt she was forfeiting something invaluable, her essence. When parents immerse themselves entirely in meeting their children's needs while neglecting their desires and well-being, they risk erasing the very qualities that make them unique and content. This persistent self-denial can eventually result in a pervasive sense of emptiness, making life seem to lack its former meaning and joy. Leah experienced this gradual erosion of her vitality firsthand. She found herself increasingly distancing from activities she once cherished, such as reading her favorite books, engaging in social groups she enjoyed, and even neglecting her personal care routines. All of this was done in the name of sacrifice, an act that, while initially well-intentioned, began to erode her sense of happiness and vitality. As time passed, Leah's sense of bitterness grew not because of a lack of recognition from others, but because she felt she had lost something profoundly precious, her essence. It's crucial to remember that self-care is not an act of selfishness, but a necessary practice for maintaining one's health and ability to support others effectively. As the saying goes, you cannot pour from an empty cup. To be a strong and supportive presence for their children, parents must first attend to their own emotional, physical, and mental needs. When Leah eventually chose to prioritize her well-being, she rediscovered her zest for life and became a more engaged and fulfilled mother and grandmother. This shift allowed her to offer the best of herself without feeling overwhelmed or depleted. Leah's journey serves as a poignant reminder that maintaining a balance between caring for others and oneself is crucial for emotional health and sustaining healthy family dynamics. If you are still watching this video and finding these lessons useful, please comment number 3 below to let me know that you are still watching this video with me. Thank you for your valuable time. Sacrifice is an inherent part of the parenting experience, but it should never come at the expense of one's happiness. By allowing themselves to live fully and joyfully, parents not only enhance their own lives but also model for their children the importance of living with authenticity and balance. Ultimately, being happy and fulfilled is not just a personal right, but also a fundamental cornerstone for nurturing a loving and harmonious family environment. Leah's journey powerfully underscores the critical role of independence in our later years. As we grow older, societal expectations often pressure us to put aside our own needs and desires for the sake of our families, particularly our children. Yet, experience demonstrates that maintaining autonomy and preserving one's identity is essential for leading a fulfilling and satisfying life. Leah's choice to leave her son's home and return to her own life was not merely a change of residence, it was a profound act of reaffirming her dignity and a deliberate decision to prioritize her happiness and well-being. Independence in old age does not imply withdrawing from family or neglecting relationships, but rather finding a healthy equilibrium where both parents and children can live their lives fully without unnecessary pressures or sacrifices. Through her decision, Leah discovered that by focusing on her own needs, she could become a more engaged and joyful mother and grandmother. She was able to cherish her time with family without the emotional strain of self-neglect. Achieving this balance, while often challenging, is crucial for the well-being of everyone involved and for fostering healthy, joyful family relationships. For those facing similar circumstances, it is important to recognize that pursuing independence is not an act of selfishness but a manifestation of self-love and respect for one's life journey. Staying active, nurturing personal interests, and maintaining one's own space are fundamental elements of a balanced life in old age. I encourage you to reflect on your own needs and take charge of your life by making decisions that enhance your happiness and well-being. Life is a continuous journey of self-discovery and fulfillment, and it is never too late to embark on the path to a more complete and satisfying existence. Thank you for joining us on this journey through Leah's story and the complexities of family dynamics in later years. What have you learned from Leah's experience? We'd love to hear how her story resonates with you and what insights you'll bring into your own life. Share one key takeaway or practice you plan to implement in the comments below. If you like this video, please leave your comment. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this. Your support helps us continue to bring you meaningful stories and guidance.